Oh no. Hi, I'm Carie Fisher. I am a senior accessibility consultant. Tech gremlins, we were just talking about them. They're always like rear their ugly heads. All right, so senior accessibility consultant slash trainer at DQ, and I'm also HCI, human computer interaction PhD student. So I'm busy, and I wear my fun shirt today. Digital equality is my jam. And we're twinning. Actually, we're tripleting today, I think. All three of us have the same shirt on. So we did not plan that.
No,
But happy to
not
be
at all.
here. But I think that's me. I don't know what else. There's nothing else to say. But odd. Tag Jay Hobson's was saying not playing. So I was wearing this, and Steph was wearing this, and then Todd was wearing something different. And I said, "Well, Todd, you've got to change." I was joking, but then he changed.
Oh, come on.
It was funny. I was going to wear a totally different shirt today, but it was in the wash. So anyway, it's fun though. It's a good shirt.
Yeah, I got to fit in with the crowd, and we got to have uniformity.
we're like a gang or something. I don't know, a gaggle. We're the accessibility cats, and we are here to play.
Yes, I
I
appreciate.
obviously did not get enough sleep or coffee, so I apologize ahead of time for being silly.
All right, well, I bet everybody's hearing me better now. It really helps to plug into the right port. Apparently, even though the USB fits into the Ethernet, apparently on this computer, that's not the right place to put it. So, who knew? Okay, well, thank you everyone for bearing with us, and thank you, Carie and Todd, for continuing to do your introductions. I think we're ready to roll. So we have hopefully the bandwidth improved. I also
Todd didn't get
what?
Oh, Todd didn't get to say who he was. Also.
Oh yes. I guess you were just chatting. Yes, go ahead, Todd. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'll make this quick. Todd Libby. I live in Portland, Maine, but I'm moving to Phoenix, Arizona at the end of the month. And I work at Nobility as an accessibility analyst. And you may see me tweet about accessibility a lot on Twitter, and maybe the occasional lobster roll
maybe
as well.
What are you going to do, Todd, when you're out in Arizona and you have no lobster rolls?
I have a plan for that. I have a place that I go through, and I can order them online and have them next day delivered, which is awesome.
Love it.
First, you have a plan. Awesome.
Okay. Apologies again, Todd. I was very distracted trying to get my mic working. All right. I think we're settled.
That's all right.
Okay, folks. So what we're going to do today, the other kind of gig of the show, is that my mystery guests also do not know, or did not know until about 5 minutes ago, what the possible topics are. I'm going to take a moment and switch our view. All right. So the other part of this is that we are going to have these mystery topics. I'm going to switch us over to that view. And I think we'll just go in the Zoom order, Carie and Todd. So Carie, you're kind of first in my list according to the Zoom order. And when you tell me go, I'm going to spin the wheel. So for folks that are watching, even with the lag, I definitely want to let you know that this wheel that I'm showing right now will spin. So I will let you know when that stops spinning. And Carie, when you say go, I'll start it spinning, and then you tell me to stop, and we'll see what the topic is. What we've been doing is if it lands on the line, we'll choose the topic below the line. So there's 8 possible topics for our chat today.
Yeah, and I can't see it at all. I don't know if you were going to send a screenshot, but whatever. It's extra blind here.
It hopefully came through in your Gmail, but yes, it was last minute. So.
Oh yeah, I'll check it. Yeah.
So whenever you're ready.
I go.
The spinning started.
All right, I see it. All right, stop.
Okay, the spinning has stopped. Oh, a good one to kick us off on. So the topic is testing basics. So whatever kind of angle you want to take on that.
Testing basics, do it. There you go. That's your basics.
Love it.
I think that's funny because there's a lot of different ways to test, and I definitely don't have enough time to go over all the things. But and I'm kind of half joking with the do it, but actually just do it. Like you'd be amazed at how many assessments I've done throughout my career where the top things that are picked up are ones that like an automated checker could catch. Automated checkers, for anyone who's not familiar, are pretty simple. You install them, you press a button, and then it scans your site or your page, and it will tell you what's going on with the state of that page. So you have to run it at various states and various pages, obviously, but it's pretty low bar as far as technical ability. But the Webbing Million, which I know that hopefully you guys are all familiar with that. If not, we'll definitely grab a link here. But I talk about this Web A Million all the time. And the reason why I talk about it all the time is because it is showing also. So it's a big project where they scan over 1 million sites. They've done it for 3 years or so now. And the top issues that they always have, and I'm looking down at my other screen so I don't quote them wrong, low contrast text is number 1. So again, automated checker could pick that up. Missing alternative text or image. Also, a automated checker could pick that up. Or missing input labels. Again, automated checker. Empty links, same. Missing document language, same. Empty button, same. So there's like a variation. There's some of those are a little bit more nuanced that you would have to kind of go in and figure out. But you'd at least be able to know that you have these things wrong. So again, these are the top kind of, I think, 6 items. 86% low contrast text. So again, color contrast between that text and that background. It's like I definitely don't want to like simplify it because there are some complications, a little more technical than that. But yeah, long and short of it is you definitely want to be testing. Automated checkers, obviously are just your first line of defense. You definitely are going to be talking about like manual testing, like keyboard testing, advanced color contrast checking, that sort of thing. And then obviously AT testing, so screen readers and other AT devices like Dragon Naturally Speaking, depending on who your audience is and who you're targeting. And ultimate testing is user testing. So don't forget about your users, your end users, actual people with disabilities who are actually using your product. That's the ultimate. That's like the gold star. So that's a lot. That was a lot more information than I meant to give there, but I find this project really interesting, that Webbing Million, because it's like infuriating in some ways to me. It's like, these are easy catches, and they're not necessarily easy fixes all the time, but they're at least easy catches, but still we're seeing like 86% of people failing. So it's kind of depressing. Yeah. But I don't want to depress your audience. But so, I mean, long story short is please test. And once you test, don't put them in that mythical phase 2, which is where a lot of these accessibility tickets go to die. We don't want that to happen either.
Yeah.
Really I have thoughts. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, that was a perfect intro. And I dropped that link in the chat. And just so you know, I was also kind of slowly scrolling through it on screen as well. But definitely, Todd, definitely want your take and what you find important for testing and anything else you want to say about that topic.
Oh, what can I cover that has not already been covered? That was great. No, that's basically along the same lines of me. I use a few of the automated tools, like Carie mentioned. They will catch a good amount of errors in that WebAIM report. I urge people to read that and see what like color contrast, for instance. That's been the big one for a long time now. That's been the number one issue. So boy, what can I add?
I'm drinking straight espresso, Todd. That's why I got it all covered.
No, I use the Axe extension. I use the Wave extension. I use the dev tools and the browsers that I test in, Microsoft Accessibility Insights, and I get a good testing, or I've made a good testing foundation for automated process before I go into the manual process of keyboard, no mouse, screen reader. When I do mobile testing, voiceover, voice control on iOS, whatever the Android talkback. Yes, thank you. I look through the accessibility features on the mobile device I'm testing in.
All right. I apologize. I think the last thing I heard Carie talking about or beginning to talk about was the importance of when to do testing, but we didn't get too much of that.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Todd and I were just going off. We told you like the secret to the universe, and you all missed it. Sorry. No, we were just talking about how there is one thing we did forget to mention, is that you're doing this kind of testing early and often. You're not waiting for QA process to actually go through and test for accessibility. If you do that, like what was traditionally done in the past, people pretty much hate you. That's why I think accessibility gets a bad rap, because of that particular instance in the past. Again, if I worked really, really hard as a developer and then someone told me, hey, you got to scrap all that hard work and all that effort, all that time, right? I would pretty much just like look at them like, are you kidding me? So if you catch these bugs early, like any bug, performance, security, talking about SEO, right? If you do these things at the beginning and early and often, and you think about it throughout and you plan for it, then you're going to be much better off than if you wait to the end and then like drop a bomb essentially on somebody like, yeah, sorry, your app isn't accessible. You're going to have to redo it. Developers and designers don't want to hear that. Trust me. So make our jobs easier and definitely test early and often.
Yes.
And I added on to that when I'm doing audits, and I start by writing everything down in Trello. The list is very long, and if accessibility had been a priority at the start, or I shouldn't say a priority. Well, yeah, I'll say a priority because I'm going to be that way. Then maybe half to 3/4 of the issues that I see would probably not be there if people or companies, entities, they started accessibility at the beginning of the project.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that was awesome kickoff, and I'm sure we'll talk about more aspects as we get into our other topics. So I am going to switch back to the wheel at this point. And Todd, it will be your turn. So again, you can let me know when to start. And a reminder for folks that have joined more recently, this wheel will spin. I'm not sure if the lag is not going to allow it to come through, but I will let you know when it stops spinning. So whenever you're ready, Todd.
Right, the pressure's on. Go ahead, start.
All right, it is spinning now.
Do I say stop too?
Yep.
Stop.
All right, so the motion has stopped and it's on the line. And so the topic below the line is accessible images and or SVG, since Carie on the call is our resident SVG expert. But Todd, you can kick it off for whatever you'd like to share about that topic.
Okay, I'm going to go right for images because I know Carie could touch better upon the SVGs than I can. Alt text is a huge, huge deal. I'm not an expert on alt text, but I know that describing that picture in the alt text for somebody that needs it, screen reader or other assistive technology, is very, very crucial. And even you see the debate all the time on Twitter too. People don't add alt text. People don't know how to add the alt text, or people just don't add it for whatever reason. And it's, I don't want to say it's exclusive on purpose, but it is exclusive in my opinion. I'm big on being inclusive, and sometimes I forget. Sometimes I will be distracted and I'll tweet something out with a photo and they'll be like, oh, I didn't add alt text. Uh, make sure you have alt text on your images. That's a big accessibility thing for me on images. And I'll hand it right off to Carie because she's our resident expert on SVGs.
So yeah, just taking one small step back is just, alternative text is basically you're trying to figure out a way to describe something that's visual to someone who's not visual, right? And so it's like this whole fascinating exercise, right? So how do I convey information? What are the important pieces of this image that I would want someone who is visually impaired to be able to know? And so people using screen readers, of course, low vision people use that as well. So a lot of different people using screen readers and other technologies to be able to parse this kind of like alt text, as we call it. There's this one study, I have to mention it real quick, and we can talk SVGs as much as we want, but it's the same kind of concept as image alt. It's just that you do it programmatically. But there's this really cool study. I was literally just talking about it yesterday. It's one of my favorite. And probably just because of the title, it's called Person Choose Tree. Is the person naked? What people with vision impairments want in image descriptions. It's like the best academic paper title ever. So this is like a real paper. It's out of the University of Texas at Austin and also Microsoft Research. So really cool people doing this thing. What I really find really fascinating about this particular article is it talks to people who are using alternative technologies like screen readers and asking them, what kind of information would you want people to tell me about or to tell you about? And they break it down into categories. So they're asking for news, social networking, shopping, employment, advertisements, and blog. So they're asking, in particular situations, you person with a visual disability, what do you want to hear? And I love that because we're talking about users and the actual end users. But I also like the idea that there's context. So the idea that if I am going to, I'm just kind of scrolling down this article real quick. You can Google that title, but it's really interesting to me. Like for instance, under news, they want to know about things like people or text or activities, right? They want to know about the weather. They want to know about the gender. They want to know about race. They want to know about expressions on people's faces. So they want to know a lot. Whereas in different categories, they're less concerned about, maybe what they look like or what shirt color they're wearing or things like that. So it's really like a fascinating study to like really kind of dig into alternative text because it's almost like a content editor conundrum, right? Like how much information do I give to be able to convey this feeling or this scene, right? Like how much detail do I give? But I also don't want to overwhelm people and give them too much information. Like we really need to know everything. In some contexts, it sounds like the researchers found that you don't. So it's really kind of fascinating to me, but I'm not a editor or anyone like that who would be writing this kind of really cool alt. But I found that kind of interesting to get that data. Anyway.
Yeah, really cool. Can you say the name of what that was again?
Sure. Yeah, I can pop it in the chat too. It's called Person Choose Tree. Is the person naked? What people with vision impairments want in image descriptions. And it's really, like I said, it's fascinating because I think back at some of the alts that I used to write for when I did web development, Drupal and WordPress and things like that. And it's like, some of them aren't very detailed. It's like snail or snail on a flower, right? Like that's a completely different image than if I added a few more characters and I just said, the gray snail is eating my purple hydrangeas, right? I've just added a few bits of context and the whole image in my mind changes. So it's pretty fascinating when we think about image alt as kind of a way to express also personality, right? A lot of brands have personality. I think Salesforce does a really good job at some of their alts. Like they have some characters, and so they really describe the characters, for instance, and like maybe like what they're doing on the page, and because that's part of their brand identity and how they want to be portrayed. So you want it to be conveyed to people who are visually impaired just as much as you would somebody who wasn't. So,
For sure.
I, oh, I was going to say, I have one more story. Like this one person I work with at DQ who it happens to be blind, and we're assessing a page and we're talking in training, we're kind of looking at a page, and I'm like, hey, Tim, take this page and with your screen reader and tell me what you see. It was like I'm not going to name the client, but it was a page where it's like, I want you to join my team. Like, hey, apply here. And so what he heard was like a heading and like a paragraph. It's pretty much like, apply now. Here's a button. What I saw was completely different. They decided everything on the page was decorative. And so they didn't give it any alts. They coded it right. That was fine. So it passed WCAG, but the user experience was completely different for me, who was a sighted person. Because what I saw was a stream from Instagram or, like Twitter, wherever they're pulling this stuff in. And so they're showing like groups getting together and, pre-COVID, hanging out and like doing activities and community service and like really having like this bonding moment with these cool activities as a team. But Tim, using screen reader, like he missed all of that. He's like, yeah, I guess I'll apply here, like maybe, I don't know. But I'm like, oh yeah, this place is cool. I want to be there. And so like, it's that idea that, should those have been decorative? Should those have had no alt in them, or should they have conveyed some of those emotions and some of those feelings and that like cool factor, right? That personality. So it was a really striking example, and I'll never forget it, because I was like, wow, this passes WCAG, this passes regulations, it checked all my boxes, but my user experience is completely like night and day between mine and Tim's. So it was fascinating. I mean, it was awful, but they changed it, I hope. But yeah, it was kind of one of those eye-opening experiences, no pun intended.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, that's super fascinating. Well, I also have on screen open your one of your articles on smashing the accessible SVGs perfect patterns for screen reader users. And I already dropped that link in chat as well. But do you want to tip on that angle of things just briefly? Then we'll move on to the next topic.
Sure. Todd's like hating this choice right now because I've got a lot of thoughts on images, but I promise I'll let you talk more in the next one. So the idea of SVGs to me is just, it blows my mind. I was talking to a group yesterday specifically about SVGs and how to make them, they call them like smart SVGs, right? So they have this idea that they can tell a story, and because it's literally digital code, it's like you can do so much more with it than you can with images. So with images, it's straight up like alternative text. So you can add a little blurb. You try to stay under 150 characters. That's kind of like, or 250, depending on what you've been told. But SVGs are like this whole open space where you can add even more context and even more dynamics. Like especially if you have interactive SVGs, like it's a graph, for instance, that you're modifying some of the parameters and it's changing, and you can hear it in real time, the alternative text essentially changing. Like, to me, I'm a big SVG fan because it's fascinating, and it's also because it can do a lot for accessibility, because you can pack in a lot more information inside of the actual SVG itself. So visually, it just looks like an image, right? It might move, it might change colors, light and dark mode, that sort of thing. But the experience that you have using a screen reader, the way you hear that SVG, can be more complex than you could with a regular image. So yeah, to me, it's kind of interesting, and there's all kinds of different ways that people are using it. Super smart people. Doug Shepherd's, for instance, and like Sarah Hiley, she's from Microsoft as well, but they do really cool stuff with interactive SVGs. And so even more dynamic. So really cool stuff that's going on.
Very cool. Well, definitely check out Carie's articles. She has several related SVG if that's a topic that you're interested in. So awesome.
I think it's just me and you, Stephanie, that like SVGs.
I mean, I think it's
Whatever.
an important topic for a lot of reasons. One of which is I know that not just the alt text side, you mentioned that can do a lot of things. There's the whole world of animation wrapped up in that. And I've also seen it starting to be promoted as a replacement for components, which we might tip into if we land on a topic related to that. But so lots of areas where it can go kind of very wrong, but that could be applicable to pretty much everything we do. So anyway, we're here to try to help, give you some ideas to move forward with and improve on those types of things that could otherwise go wrong.
Oh man, can I defer and give it to Todd just because I feel like I took over his last one. Does that work for you, Todd?
That's fine with me, but believe me.
Go for it. Go for it. I'll drink my coffee and yeah.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and start?
Okay, it's gonna spin, everyone. Okay, it's starting to spin.
Okay. Stop.
Okay, spinning has stopped. All right. It is by a hair. It has landed on your accessibility slogan. I kind of added this one for you, Todd, to be honest.
Oh. And that's the shirt I had on before this one.
No. Another quick change.
My accessibility slogan is accessibility is a right, not a privilege. And I guess it should speak for itself. I kind of wanted it to speak for itself that way. I don't know about everybody else, but from what I've seen in my career, it seems like that there is I guess kind of developers and designers too can put their heads down and do their work and just have those blinders on and think, I'm doing this because it works on my computer, or I'm doing this because the user isn't going to be this certain demographic, or I've even had, and I'll use this as a perfect example, I've even had a developer tell me, we don't have disabled users. And it nearly knocked me back in my chair. And that's when I had to get into situational, and, the eyeglasses you're wearing are an assistive technology. So, yeah, I kind of base that slogan off of the UN, United Nations, and I'll try to find the link, but they declared the internet a basic human right, and I think personally, I think accessibility is a basic human right as well. We should be thinking about, and it's not just blind people or people that use a certain assistive technology. It's for people that are still on a 2G or 3G phone out in the middle of wherever.
Sometimes, yeah, up north in Wisconsin, it's like that. And I know Stephanie's battled some Wi-Fi bugs. Yeah. Good point, Todd, for sure.
Yeah, it's those people too that I group in that category of, they deserve that accessibility as well. Not everybody can afford a brand new iPhone. Not everybody, has a brand new iPhone. So that's where, and in the recent years, I've focused on inclusivity as well. That's where that slogan came in. And I thought it was so good, to be honest with you. I pat myself on the back and I made a t-shirt, so I'll get that link as well.
Yeah.
And the t-shirt proceeds from the t-shirt go to Carie as well.
Awesome. Yes. Definitely drop that link in chat. All right. Carie, what would you say is your kind of slogan?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I can't follow Todd. That's on me for letting him go first. No, I definitely agree with what Todd says, and in the sense of a basic human right, and definitely all of that. And I think my personal slogan is, the more I code, the more I learn it's not about the code, right? And so to me, that is a reflection on the user. And I think, and Stephanie, you kind of like touched on it a little bit earlier as well, about this concept of we can do good and we can do bad with our designs, with our code, and everything of the whole experience of the app or digital product that we're working on. And so being cognizant of that, I think, is a big first step in realizing that you have that kind of power over people and their whole lives, right? Like if, let's say you're making a banking app, but it's not accessible, but I'm a person using a screen reader and I can't use your app, I can't bank with you, right? I'm going to choose someplace else. So that's a direct impact. And so I think about that all the time about, you know, I feel like there's a Star Wars joke in there somewhere, like choosing the light side and not my dark forces or something. But I'll let you guys write that joke. It's too early for me. But the idea is that use your talents for good and not for evil, and just being cognizant of that power that you have over so many people. Even even the smallest dev or the smallest designer out there is really making a big impact on the end user. So
Yeah.
yeah, what I think about a lot. That's what keeps me up at night. As this, like, because I mean, that's what our shirt says, basically. Digital equality is our jam. And that's because, we're thinking about it, right? And so that first step of just being cognizant of that power that you have over your end user and making it the best for them. But I don't think a lot of people think that way. Not yet. But Todd and Steph and I are trying to change the world, one developer, one designer at a time.
Yes. Yes. And I'll just say the other thing about every guest that I have invited this month, and kind of a mainstay of what I wanted this show to be about, is that all of my guests are very good at helping in the community and in their own unique way. And particularly for accessibility, all of my guests are excellent educators and do their part to provide resources. So for sure, what I failed to do so far, and I will do it now in the chat, is provide you links. So you can definitely make sure to follow both Carie and Todd, and they're constantly sharing all kinds of things. And so if you're not sure where to start, beginning to follow some of these experts that are very open with their knowledge, it is my recommended way to get started. I've learned so much just kind of through osmosis of following folks like Carie and Todd, and definitely keeping on top of whatever links they're sharing. I definitely want to add those to what I'm looking at too. So I just, for folks in the chat reference, I'm an advocate, but I am not credentialed in any way. So I do my best, but we're all kind of learning too. And there's so many variables that go into accessibility. I was just thinking while you were talking.
You're selling yourself short.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I've had amazing teachers. I get to have one of them come on later in the month, which I'm really excited about. So I'm grateful to everyone that I've learned from. And I think that's the really important thing here, is that you're not going to get it 100% right, even when you are an expert, because there's just, an infinite amount of variables that go into making an accessible experience. Carie mentioned it in terms of, even among folks who rely on you to make an accessible experience, they're going to have different preferences of what they're expecting from that experience. But anyway, I don't mean to overtake the topic or anything. I think my slogan just seems to be the thing I talk about the most, next to color contrast, is tab it before you ship it would be my slogan. I think I talk about keyboard accessibility the most, not just on Twitter, but within my own team. So I didn't put anything about that on this wheel, but we will probably get to it later in the month, I'm sure. So let's see, back to Carie, right? At this point?
Sure.
All right, when you're ready.
Go for it.
All right, wheel is spinning.
All right.
All right.
Does anyone ever remember that, like, no whammies, stop?
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
What was that, Press Your Luck or something?
Yes, it was. I used to watch it all the time.
That's a little bit what it feels like. Like, don't give me a whammy, Steph. Like, give me something good.
Well, you may feel that I just did that. I'm not sure because we landed on
Shoot.
Spinner's. We landed on Spinner's choice.
Oh,
So
geez. Yeah.
I don't know if that image came through in your email.
That
You're
is,
welcome to choose a different
yeah,
one from the
I can see
wheel
it.
or whatever comes to mind for you too.
I actually, I'm looking at the options here. These are hard. I think the best one for the very end is probably where to start.
Yep, love it.
Because the idea is that, hopefully somebody listening is like, yeah, like I get what Todd's saying, I get what Steph's saying, I get what Carie's saying, like, let's do it. Like, what do we do next? And so I feel like that's a key part of it. And
Mhm.
Steph, you totally touched on a topic I want to make sure that everyone knows about is that equity and accessibility is vast. And I mean, we're small, but we're vast. And there's a lot of experts, and Todd and Stephanie and myself and all the guests that are going to come on the rest of the month. We are, we're good at what we do, but there's a bunch of people that are also good at what they do. And the community is super helpful. We don't typically get into too many Twitter feuds, occasionally once in a while, but we're very open to the idea of perspectives and ideas from other people as well. So my number one thing of like where to start next is get in contact with the community, especially if you're that lone dev or that lone designer that's in your company and you're the only one who cares about accessibility or is thinking about it, because I've been there. The community saved me. The community made me what I am today. Good and bad. I guess I could curse at them a little bit as well, but the idea is that I am nothing without the giants that I'm standing upon the shoulders, and then there's going to be people after me that do the same thing. And it's that iterative process where we're building and building because we all believe in this like end goal of that things are accessible and are usable and a great experience, beautiful and a really like cool and fundamental, like you can have all these things together and it can also be accessible. So I'd say the number one takeaway for where to go next or where to start is to connect to the community. You mentioned Twitter, that's a good place. LinkedIn, I've seen a lot. The other place I look at is the W3C Web Alley Slack. It's a Slack channel. There's over 8,000 people in there right now, which is great. It's phenomenal. Everyone from very beginning to super advanced, people who wrote all the regulations for the WCAG, right? Those people are even in there. And there's all these sub channels too for interests. So if you care about a particular thing like SVGs or WordPress or something, like there's all those patterns, right? So anything that you can think of, it's in these sub channels as well. So yeah, it's where I met some of my really good friends and coworkers and love it. So definitely connect. That would be my number one thing to say.
Yeah, awesome. How should folks get
Um,
started?
Building on what Carie said, which I agree with 100%, ask questions on Twitter, even if you don't know, who all the people are. That's how I started, to be honest with you, is approaching people that I saw tweeting accessibility tweets and saying, what's the guideline behind that, or why is that, how does that work? W3C, I'm in the W3C. When I go to a meeting, I feel like the kid in the corner just watching and seeing all these people that are terrific people. We're working on some terrific, amazing stuff. And, like you said, Carie, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants as well. I've learned a lot. I'm a part of a few groups and a part of a few subgroups. Getting into the W3C is easy if you're an individual. That's how I started as an individual. Now that I work for Nobility, I'm in, under their name, doing some work. That's a great place to, and I see a lot of new people coming in lately too, which is terrific. And just you don't have to speak up during your first meeting or your fifth meeting. You can just take it all in like I did. I didn't I didn't want to speak on my first meeting, but now I try to add something if I can to the conversation, and it's great. The last thing that I'll touch upon is along with that, the Slack group there. There are meetups, and there are, try to catch those meetups.
I totally forgot Allie Talks. Like, I could have totally
Oh, yes.
totally. Sorry, Todd, you keep finishing your thought, but it reminded me there's so many cool meetups, and there's one that I'm a part of too that's called Accessibility Talks, where we invite a guest and they speak. And I'm hoping both Todd and Stephanie consider it in the future. So no pressure, but I said it out loud.
Absolutely. You don't have to twist my arm. But no, yeah, just to quickly finish, those the meetups and the smaller groups too are just as valuable as the W3C or even Twitter, in my opinion. So yeah.
Awesome.
I was going to say, there is a list that is somewhere on GitHub. I think there's so many lists, but there's a list from forgetting Joe somebody, and he's got a list of like organizations and people that you could follow. So again, these are people that are in the community, in the tech community, and talking about digital accessibility. But it's got all that whole thing. So you can find something regional, or you can find something virtual. Conferences are listed as well as individuals. So that might be a good place to get started.
Awesome. Yeah.
And one other thing I'd like to quickly add is, if you're looking to incorporate accessibility in your organization, in your on your team, I have a Smashing Art magazine article that came out at the beginning of July that I wrote, and that is my take on how to implement that as well at your organization.
Yeah, that was a great one. I just got that in the chat. So definitely check that out, folks. If, like Todd said, you're looking to, how do you get that started? All super great tips. We have just a couple minutes left before I need to close down the stream. I definitely want to thank Carie and Todd for joining today. I think we hit on some excellent topics. Of course, we didn't get to everything, but I think we covered some good ground. So I hope you're both happy with what you were able to share. But if you do have any last thoughts, anything you didn't think we quite got to in a minute or two.
That's an impossible task for me. I think Todd hit the nail on the head as far as like asking questions and being open to suggestions and feedback and things like that. I think that's what makes the accessibility community so much different than the tech community, because I definitely was a front-end developer hardcore for 15 years or so before I switched and started focusing on accessibility. And it feels a lot more welcoming. Maybe it's just my perception of it, but it feels a lot more welcoming, a lot more like you can ask questions and not feel like a noob, right? You can be an expert and still get things wrong, and people are good about pointing out those things, and hopefully mostly a constructive way. So definitely join the community, even if you're, like you're saying, like Todd, if you're just sitting on the outside and looking in for a while, that's fine. We welcome you there and we want you there. So please definitely invest a little bit of time into making your digital products a little bit more inclusive.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else other than, yeah, we need you in the community. We'd love to have you in the community. And yeah, just ask all the questions.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, again for
joining. I'm excited to know
today.
Who it is.
Yes.
Us a hint sometimes. Yes.
Some of them may be guessable if you and I share similar circles, and I hope to have a couple surprises, though. All right. Thank you again, everyone, and we will see you, if not sooner, on Monday, August 16th.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.